Welcome to We Have Notes.
We are recording.
Hey, Stanley.
Hey, Meredith.
What? I could just pitch you now on my idea for the new title for the show. So my pitch for the title of the show, we were thinking maybe 20 for 20 has been floated. I was thinking on the way over here, what about We've Got Notes?
I like that because we did have lots of notes.
We had lots of notes, and we could have lots of notes on anything. Like We Have Notes could be a franchise. We have notes on the 2020 election. We have notes on the best movies of 2001. We have the best, notes on everything, because I think that is the one qualification that we bring to the table.
Yes.
Is that we have a lot of opinions. And that's really it in terms of credentials. That's kind of what we have to offer.
But the joke that I used before we were recording, and I'll use again, we're millennials, and that's what the most important thing is.
That's what the most important thing.
Them whether you want to or not.
Yeah, and I think it's funny that now millennials are people in their 30s like us.
Oh, God.
But it does seem, the archetypal millennial still does seem to be like a 25-year-old.
Yeah, because we're less insufferable now. That's the thing about it.
I think that's true.
And self-important, less self-important.
Yes, still very underpaid.
Aggressively
underpaid. That's the word on the street with the think pieces.
Yeah,
that we're still very underpaid.
And we're making Applebee's go out of business and TGI Fridays.
Applebee's.
We're not buying houses. Meanwhile, Marilyn and I were talking about like painting.
Yeah,
and, like, how
painting.
Painting like the walls of an apartment or a home, and she would want like gray wall with like a black or a blue trim.
I like that.
I don't like the black trim. I want something that pops.
What about like navy?
How about an autumn green trim?
That's insane.
How is that insane?
I'm just trying to imagine. Do you mean like an olive green? Like army green or like bright green?
No, not bright green.
Not neon. Bright could be
like the green you're wearing on your shirt today.
This is like Kelly green.
I could do Kelly green. That would work. So like you got nice grade and the Kelly green makes it pop just a little bit. I like that. But then,
I don't know. I think green is a tough color.
Yeah, because then like it's gonna clash with the furniture you put in there too. You gotta be really
exactly
specific.
Yeah.
But like I want like relaxing colors, but like I also want energetic colors too. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it does. I think that makes sense. And I think we're really proving our point here that we do have an opinion on just about everything.
We're interior designers, obviously, right?
Now we are. That's what we're totally doing that.
So welcome to We Got Notes. Is that what we're saying now?
I think that's what we'll call it for now.
High five.
High five.
There we go.
And we are here to currently have notes on the 20 best movies of the year 2000, which was 20 years ago.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's crazy.
Did you do anything for the Y2K apocalypse? Did you prepare?
What did I do? I mean,
I was 12 and you were 14, so probably one would hope others were making the decisions about avoiding apocalypses.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
For us?
My dad was at work. Nothing happened. We weren't prepared.
Nothing happened in the end, which seems very good for you. Yeah. If anything had happened for me, we were, my parents took us that holiday season and over the New Year to the mountains of Colorado. Why? And told us it was because if the Y2K apocalypse came, we wouldn't want to be in the cities. And that's the first time I ever heard my mom say her famous quote that she's now used many times when disasters hit, which is, "We're all 8 missed meals away from like chaos." And I was like, Mom,
that makes so much sense and none at all.
Yeah. Anyway, so the year 2000, it was a crazy time. In the Barnes household.
Yes, it was shit, dude.
Speaking of the Barnes household, we should probably say our names.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right. So, ladies first. I'm patriarchy.
That's right. I'm Meredith Barnes.
Where can I find you, Meredith?
Around. If you Google that, you'll find me. I got a website, meredithbarnes.com. That's a great centralized place to find me.
Yeah. Lady. All right. My name is Stanley Fritz. You can follow me on the socials at Stan Fritz on Twitter, and you can check out my website, Let's Not Be Trash, where I write about things, particularly patriarchy and sexism. And then I do about 75 of the podcasts because I don't like sleeping, but especially let your voice be heard.
Yeah, and once again, your just boundless supply of opinions has many different outlets, websites, audio, stuff like that. So, but yeah, why did it appeal? Would you consider yourself like a movie person? I would not consider myself a movie person.
I would consider myself a type of movie person.
Okay.
Like, I like movies, but only the movies that I want to see.
What are those?
Usually comedies or action movies or political movies. And then sometimes...
That's a broad spectrum.
Yeah, but like, I don't like watching sad shit. I don't like watching stuff that's going to make me cry, even though I broke that rule recently with this movie we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But it was so good, though.
But and we'll talk about this later more, too, but it was not as sad as I expected it to be.
Yeah, like... it.
Which we'll get into,
Yeah,
but...
a whole different...
But yeah, I think that's a part of what's so fun about this project is a lot of these are movies I never would have given a shit about. And some of them are movies that you were really excited about that I couldn't care less about. Like... what is it, Road Trip?
Yeah, Road Trip. I love
when that
movie.
came out, I was like, oh, this is beneath me. I was reading, the classics at the time.
So Nora Roberts.
No. That was very much beneath me as a 12-year-old. I was very just angsty. I wore a lot of the used t-shirts and stuff like that.
Right.
So I was like, I definitely saw Gladiator. Definitely was like in for that like prestige shit.
Oh,
but
okay.
all those other things, and I like some of the movies like we're going to talk about in this season, The Cell.
Yeah.
I did see that eventually, but I think I was like in my late teens and was just thinking about if I had seen it at 12, what it would have done to me.
Oh my goodness.
Because it's have you seen that movie?
Long time ago. It's a strange movie.
It's a strange movie. It's a very strange movie, but it's like these, like just picking the movies that kind of like grossed the highest in the year 2000 means like it's a really broad spectrum of things. It's some stuff that I would never watch on my own.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of what's fun about it, even though I don't really have any like training about like how to evaluate these things. We just picked what made the most money.
Yeah.
Because capitalism.
Yeah, and then we almost didn't pick the ones that made the most money because we had a couple of favorites
That's right.
in there that we had to debate about.
Yes.
Like Memento, I don't think it made a lot of money, but we were like, we're watching.
We
that.
gotta watch that. Yeah.
That's like
Again, I have seen that before,
Yeah.
but yeah. So it's like a very broad bouquet of things, and I think that's going to be really fun.
Me too, but like I feel like some of these movies we may need to eat like an edible and to watch it that way.
I think that we should consider that. I'm committing to nothing since who knows who's listening.
Yes.
And we should not disclose which ones those are, and maybe listeners could guess.
Ooh, see? The winner gets satisfaction.
Nothing. And probably not even acknowledgement. We will neither confirm nor deny the presence of psychotropic anything.
Exactly.
So
we're responsible.
That's what we're responsible for our, we don't want to get, I don't know, canceled? Will we get canceled for that?
No.
You never know.
That's true. Like,
canceling is always evolving.
They're like, oh, you drink water, you're fucking done.
Yeah. Where's that water from? A bottle?
Yeah.
Shame on you.
It's like, maybe.
You don't make your own water? You just pee into a distiller or something?
And shake it until you cry.
Like in the movie Dune? Have you seen that movie?
No, I have not seen that movie.
There are a couple of different versions, and I think a new one was coming out, but that is outside of our mandate because it's not the year 2000. But they do drink their own urine in that movie. Because it's a desert planet, man.
Okay, what's a desert planet? But like, how did they even get urine to pee to drink?
Because they wear a still suit, as in distill, and it's a full body suit, and it takes your sweat and your urine and all sorts of stuff, and it processes it, and then you drink it. Well, and that's even the royalty.
Well, listen, I sweat a lot, so I would never.
You would be fine.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck you guys.
I'm a very dry person. I don't sweat a lot, so I would probably be in trouble.
Yeah, see? I'd tell you some of my distilled, like, that sounds disgusting.
Yeah. No, that's capitalism.
Oh, man.
You would find a way to make money. That's the American way.
Yeah.
I think that's good. And yeah, so we basically mostly used money as an organizing principle for these movies. Yeah. And I like what a wide variety of things that turned up.
Yeah, no, and like, I mean, I'm still on my movie high from like Billy Elliot, the first 2 weeks.
Yep, that's what we're going to talk about today.
So yeah, so do you want to tell like listeners about the movie?
Yes. So Billy Elliot, you will not be surprised to learn, came out in the year 2000. It is a British dance drama film about a boy becoming a professional ballet dancer and set in 1984 and 85 in County Durham, Northeast England, which I was a huge surprise to me that these were not American people. And that was during a miners' strike. And essentially what we have here is a juxtaposition of the Billy Elliot's dad and older brother who are both on strike.
Yep.
They're coal miners who are not, they're like protesting for better wages or something. That's a historical event you can Google on your own. And Billy kind of becomes like enthralled with this ballet class that is practicing in the same space as his boxing class is. And he kind of starts to sort of get attracted to that. And we can get more into the plot later. But the star of Billy Elliot, I looked him up. His name is Jamie Bell. And Billy Elliot, I think, was his first movie. That was
his first movie?
I think so. I mean, he was very young.
Yeah, he's like 11 years old.
He was 11 in the movie. I'm not sure how old he literally was in real life. But he went on to do, speaking of a wide variety of things, a wide variety of movies.
Yeah.
He was in... a lot of crazy stuff. He was in Nymphomaniac, which was in 2013. So there was a wide gap in there, but that's a big jump from the wholesomeness of Billy Elliot.
Yeah.
He played Tintin in the 2011 movie of the same name. And if you look up a picture of Jamie Bell and then look up do you know who Tintin is?
No, who's that?
Let me show you a picture of Tintin.
So while she looks at a picture of Jamie Bell, I'm looking at pictures of adult Billy Elliot, and he's a little bit of a snack.
Yeah, he is.
Can we say that? Like,
that's Tintin, the cartoon character. He's a perfect Tintin.
Yeah, he really is.
So that was great for him. So he went from like obsessive sex movie to Tintin, and the woman who plays his dance teacher went on to be the mom in Harry Potter, the Weasley mother.
Oh, the Weasley mother.
Yes.
I told my partner Marilyn that she played the mom of Harry Potter's girlfriend, but no, she played the Weasley mother.
There's probably gonna be a lot of fact checking, I feel, on this episode, but yes, she played Molly Weasley and a bunch of other stuff. Like all of the actors went on to go have like really full careers of like, I don't think any of them are kind of people you'd like recognize on the street, but they've like consistently worked since.
That's good.
And Julie Walters, who played the dance instructor and also Molly Weasley, was married to Pete Postlethwaite in the 70s. And you think you don't know who Pete Postlethwaite is, but you know who he is. He's like one of the most prolific character actors, and he was in Romeo plus Juliet, that remake that
with Leonardo DiCaprio and
and Claire Danes. Yeah. Excuse me, Claire Danes. He played the priest.
Wow.
So anyway, that's like a thing. I love it when Pete Postlethwaite pops up.
Tangent.
Yeah,
Billy Elliot.
I know.
And also, like he's
very handsome.
Yes, and like he's married to Kate Mara. Yeah.
From House of Cards.
Yes, and they have a beautiful child together.
Oh my God, I'm sure they do. That doesn't surprise me at all. But I wonder where they met. How do you think they met? Is there like Tinder?
Was like tap dancing up a hill, and then
finished. One of his favorite things to do.
It was like the floor was covered in snow, and she was like, "Hey, who are you?" And then they were getting married.
Yeah,
that's how.
He's like, "I've jumped here from the '80s."
Yes.
Which we should. I think that's. Let's get back to the plot, and I think that's actually a really interesting way to do it. How would you say overall? What was like the prevailing feeling you had?
Chaos. Yes.
Total chaos.
Yes. Like you could not like. I always felt myself trying to digest pieces, and before I could, you'd be jumping somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it all came together.
It did all come together. I think that's one thing that we both ended up really agreeing on. This movie is good.
Yeah.
Like, it's soundly constructed.
Yep.
There's a beginning, middle, and an end that's very satisfying.
Yep.
The characters all have growth arcs.
Yes.
Really, except for the dance teacher.
Yeah, like her growth was stunted a little bit. I don't know what happened with that.
Yeah.
God is a bitch.
Debbie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also in dance class, Debbie would never keep her eyes to the front.
Yeah.
That was one of the most common lines, was Debbie eyes front. So when Billy Elliot is standing in his boxing class, getting totally destroyed.
Yes.
Not a boxer.
Not good at all.
Very skinny kid, clearly being pushed there by his own father, who, like, I feel like there's a metaphor in the boxing gloves that Billy used were his grandfather's boxing gloves too, and his father says to him, like, those are my father's boxing gloves. So there's this whole thing about, like, you'll follow in my footsteps and, like, my definition of, like, how a man should be. And we've already seen his older brother follow that trajectory, and frankly neither one of them seems very happy
at all.
So if I were Billy, I too would kind of be like, I don't know. Is there another way? Yeah. And he finds an option for the other way in this ballet class that has to share the same gymnasium. And he essentially, without a lot of friction, starts just joining in at the dance class. Like, he doesn't really, it doesn't take much convincing.
Yeah, he just kind of like, oh, here are the keys. Oh, I'll put her away.
Yeah. And then really the point where that becomes more complicated is when his dad sees him in the ballet class, and he is not into that.
No, he's not.
He thinks that there's a lot of people being called poofs.
Yeah.
Which was one of the Britishisms that I wrote down. Yeah. Along with knobhead.
Yeah.
For dickhead, I think that's like would be. I think a knob is a penis. Yeah. In the UK, so you're a knobhead if you're a dickhead. Yeah. And also someone at one point says, "Don't lose your blob."
Yeah, I never figured out what that meant.
No, I mean, from context clues, I guess it means like calm down, which has never worked in the history of time. By the way, not a thing to say to anybody who's uncalm. But "don't lose your blob" does have, I think, if I were to encounter someone saying that to me, it would really break the tension, because that's hilarious. That's a hilarious thing to say.
Don't lose your blob.
So yeah, it was very British. Yeah. We had the subtitles on.
Yes, we did.
I think we both prefer to have subtitles on.
Yeah, I'm a subtitle guy.
Me too. I don't want to miss anything, and I would have missed a lot.
Oh yeah, because like the conversation, which like at first was jarring too. The conversation fit the pacing.
Right.
For me.
Let's talk more about the pacing. Here's where the chaos comes in.
Yes. So you want me to tell it?
Yeah, you do. Tell.
Right. So the pacing, like usually in a movie, you like it's pretty clear if it's a good movie of like what time of the day you're in, when the scene transitions, like whether like an hour has passed, a couple of hours has passed, a year has passed, like that's very clear. Or they try to make an effort to do that. And you kind of like are prepared for that transition to happen. In Billy Elliot, that is not the case at all. We could just be sitting here right now talking about Billy Elliot, and when I was watching The Matrix, it was really good, and I like when Neo. That's what Billy. That thing right there is what Billy Elliot.
You're like,
did.
where'd the Matrix come from? Why is it snowing?
Yes, and I just like so what I thought were random things that were just there, and I didn't understand why I was there, but like put the story together. So the little girl who stood from the beginning of the movie, she was standing outside of his house.
This little ragamuffin, she has one line the whole movie, and she's just kind of there.
The whole movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, like...
that's how it seems, at least.
Yeah.
Where's this child's family?
I don't know. But, yeah, she was there. Or, what's the other thing? Like, there was a couple things. So, he's with his grandma. Mm-hmm. And they're going to see his mom. And then all of a sudden, he's boxing.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like...
Yeah.
Like his grandma's, like they were looking at his mom's gravestone. He was at his mom's gravestone. The grandma was at the wrong gravestone. And then he like runs to go get her. But nope, now he's boxing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, first of all, we'll get to the women in this movie in a minute. Because I think that's really, there's something, but, right. But there's like, when we were talking about this last night about the chaotic like pacing and the jump cuts and the whole seasons will go by, all of a sudden there will be snow on the ground and stuff like that, it kind of mirrored to me what Billy's home life must have been like, because there was a lot of chaos. Like the men weren't working, his mother has passed away a long time ago, there's not a lot of stability, he's like breaking a lot of molds with how he's spending his time, and kind of has a lot of anxiety around how people are going to react to that. So I wonder if part of the intention there was to make us feel how Billy felt. Yeah. I was definitely unmoored. Yeah. For super all of the movie. Yeah. But I do think it ended up working, and like the last third of the movie really smoothed out.
Yeah, it really did.
So that I think it was intentional. I think it was like meant to evoke a feeling, and then they were like, all right, we're done with that, because now you should feel more stable.
And you're right, because Billy was more stable too.
Yeah.
It was just like everybody kind of just like, yeah. But like one thing that stood out to me in the movie, especially in the first like 2 quarters, how angry all the men were.
Oh my gosh, so mad! Everyone's so angry.
Like Billy and his brother share a room, so and like they're both in bed, and Billy's like, "Hey, brother," he's like, "Fuck off." He goes,
Tony, was that his name?
I forgot his name.
Fact check myself while you keep going. Yes.
And Billy's like, "All right, night then." But all the men except for Billy and like the boy kids, they're so angry. I mean, everyone in the town is just not the nicest person. They all seem to be in not good moods, but the men are like they are extraordinarily aggressive and angry and volatile, and it doesn't even make sense all the time. Why?
Right.
So that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, and I think this is clearly meant to be like a very stressful time economically for people, and I think that, man, if you feel like you're having a hard time providing for your family, I think nothing else really calms you down ever. I think you are just in a perpetual state of total terror.
Yeah.
That like this could all be pulled out from under. Like, what if the strike doesn't go through? Like, you can empathize with the dad and with Tony, even though like they are really being very hard on this little boy.
Yeah, like the kid's playing the piano, and the dad comes and slams like the thing down
and ends up breaking it down for firewood.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That was
and that so there is no real ameliorating force on these guys either. Like, they're so angry, and like that's all Billy is getting, like, as a message for sort of what you have to look forward to when you're growing up, and kind of also how a man is.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to be until he finds this ballet class. But part of that is because his grandmother has like very severe dementia. He's always having to chase her down from somewhere.
Yeah.
And his mom is dead, and we don't really know how long ago the mom died.
Yeah.
But she does have like a couple of appearances, or maybe only that one.
That was really
it was
sad.
really sad.
Yeah.
And you just wonder, like, if obviously there's a surrogate mother that sort of like gets dropped in. That I think that's really nice, but you just wonder if like that household would have been different if there was somebody around who maybe was bringing a different kind of energy to the table. But it also, just women in general in that movie were sparse on the ground. Not a lot of women. Like, but then they're all like removed from the action. So mom's dead. Grandma is, not present. And then the ballet teacher... Once she gets Billy to a certain point, and we should talk about this plot point, then the dad takes over. Yeah. She just disappears.
Yeah, and she's really pissed about that at the end.
Yeah.
But at Billy.
Right. So
who's 11.
Eventually, I know, right. So eventually it gets to the point where this ballet teacher, like, what was her name?
So while Meredith looks at the ballet teacher's name, let me tell you, so Billy starts doing the classes, he's starting to get good, his dad discovers him.
Right,
the teacher is like, hey...
Mrs.
Wilkinson, hey, Billy, you're really good. You could potentially go to a school to do this. And Billy at first is apprehensive and then goes, are you sweet on me? Because he thinks that she might be into him, which is amazing.
It's a great scene because his eyes are full of, like, terror, but also, like, that youthful thing of, like, of course you are.
Yeah.
He's got swagger.
Yeah, he does. And, like... But then also, like, it's like she said she'll do it for free, so she's very clearly like hopeful in him. Yeah. And it's like a big pivotal moment, and he rises to the occasion. Mm-hmm. But like, I couldn't even appreciate that scene as much because I was just so blown away at how cavalierly all the children talk to adults.
Oh my gosh!
Talk to children.
Yes.
They're just like no line. There's like, oh, fuck off. Like,
yeah.
He told her to fuck off.
He did.
That was okay.
Yeah. And they're really, the kids really were like very fully fledged characters. Like, there's Billy's buddy who's like into cross dressing, and
he's like, my dad
Michael.
When he thinks no one's home. Yeah,
and it's like, all right, this kid's got a whole story too. Yeah. But also just this like cavalierness about like, I wear lipstick and I'm wearing my sister's dress right now. It's no big deal. Do you want to wear this for my mom? As I'm just like, no, not even asking, putting lipstick on you.
Yeah, and like they're all cool with it. And like when I was a kid, that would not have gone down so smoothly on either side. But they were just kind of like, they had a very interesting relationship, I thought.
Well, why wouldn't it have gone smoothly on either side?
Well, because it's just how like toxic homophobia was back then.
Yeah,
in the early 90s. And this movie's based in the 80s, which is why I thought it was interesting to have like that be so just like, no big deal. first off, no one. There's a certain level of comfort someone would have had to have with you to try that.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not clear that they have that. I mean, you don't see him and Michael together all that much. It's kind of the first extended scene where they're just in one another's company.
Yeah.
So I thought it was, especially in a movie that kind of almost, with the jump cuts and the chaos that they're trying to like communicate in all these different ways, it had almost a surrealist quality to it.
Yeah.
And so it almost felt surreal, the ease with which that scene happened, the ease with which Billy slipped off the bonds of like how he's being taught to be a man.
Yeah.
It was almost like a dream version of how this might happen.
Yeah.
Like a dream in the literal sense of it being like kind of with the constraints around these people, you'd think maybe this would not be actually possible. Like it's dream, but it's also dream-like in the sense of how these things just sort of flow into one another, and the fantasy element of kind of trying on these different ways of being and ways of being a man, but also just ways of being a person.
Yeah. But like while all this is going on, you have a full-fledged miners' strike going on.
Yes.
And there are police everywhere.
And those cuts between like there's I wrote one of them down of like what there's a cut between like, okay, so ballet class, you've got this little sea of 11-year-old girls in white tutus with Billy bumbling along in the beginning. This is like sort of towards the beginning of him getting into dance. He's not that good yet. And then it cuts to just like a sea of riot shields.
Yeah, and like they're yelling at the scabs. So for those of you who don't know, scabs are people who they cross a picket line when workers are striking. And they usually they cross the line to get a job and probably make a little bit more money than a regular union worker would make, but not more than what the union workers are making.
They like when a union strikes, everyone's supposed to stop working. That's how you get your leverage over the company. But some people, if they're really in dire straits or they don't buy what the union is selling, they might keep going to work. Yeah. And the company will pay them a little bit more to keep things running. Yeah. So most of the miners are like very irritated with the scabs, and they drive them in on this bus every morning to the mine, and the the miners who are on strike are just like beating the bus, and the bus is like wrapped in chicken wire to keep stuff from like breaking the windows. It was very dramatic.
Yeah, it was. Whew, man. Yeah.
And did you also think that the surrealism was kind of carried through with the cops? Because remember when they're chasing Tony, like towards the end of the movie, there are like hundreds of cops. Like maybe that was really how it was, but maybe that's an exaggeration, like an intentional hyperbole.
Yeah, maybe, because I didn't even understand why they were chasing him or why there were that many cops. And if that many cops went after him, why did he get out like the next day so easily?
With just merely a terrible black eye.
Because like he actually looked pretty good when like he got hit over the head with the bobby stick, but then the next day,
he
was
right,
in pretty good shape. Like he was very handsome again. When his dad hit him with that straight jab, he was way like his left eye was higher than his right eye, and he had a bruise.
Oh yeah, a little halo of blood around his iris.
Oh, so we're doing jump cuts to you guys now.
Yeah. But it's so like that is suffused throughout the movie. Is these like juxtapositions of relatively peaceful scenes with these cops, like just sea of cops.
Like when they're walking from school, and then the little girl, like she's tapping her stick against the wall, and then they cross the street, and then she just keeps tapping her stick against the police shields, like nothing happened. That
was perhaps my favorite moment in the movie. Like you're so kind of comfortable as a viewer. You're like, oh, these two kids, like Debbie's, she's like a weirdo, and we're like very aligned with Billy. Like they've done a good job of ingratiating us to him, and so you're thinking like, okay, here's a peaceful scene. Like I don't really have to be worried. It was almost like a jump scare. Yeah, that she's just like da 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 da, and then it's like cops.
Yep, dude.
It was very alarming. And then the weirdest part of that scene.
Oh yeah.
So they pass the cops. No one even like references the cops at all. It's just, it is so well done. So it's like, oh yes, of course we have like a line of riot cops. That's just normal here now. Like we accept this, which is even more terrible than them being freaked out by it. But they get to wherever they're going, and Billy's going to cross the street, and the little girl like waves goodbye to him, and a delivery van drives her down the hill, and she looks like she disappears, and we actually rewound it and watched it, and you can see her little feet, the little actress's feet, like running behind the van, so that that effect was there. But you can tell the filmmaker was really trying to like infuse some of that surrealist feeling into things, and like nothing's really what it seems.
Yeah, and that was a good catch by you, by the way, but like there was another scene where Billy was walking out, and then the cops were just hanging out in the grass playing hacky sack.
Yeah.
And then like they hit him in the head with a hacky sack and just jump to a new scene. And I was like, what is happening?
Yeah. Well, they're essentially occupied, like that little town. And there's no sense. You're like right in medias res, like you're right in the middle of things, and it doesn't seem like there's any way out, which is what makes this kind of confrontation between Miss Wilkinson and Billy's family so much more urgent.
Yeah.
When she says like, I think he should go to this ballet school, and Billy's like, yeah, I think that's when he tells her to fuck off.
Yeah.
We do this, and he misses one audition that's closer to home, and she kind of doesn't let up, and Billy too is like kind of on board now. Like maybe missing that audition made him see like how scared he was of like not getting this opportunity. And so then we bring the dad in.
Yep. But wait, before we get there, we got to talk about what happened when Billy tried to be proactive.
Yes.
And get some help before he missed the audition because Tony was arrested by those cops.
Right.
So Billy had to go with his dad to bail Tony out of prison or jail. And before Billy goes...
Yes, make that distinction between prison and jail.
That's
Don't
right.
be smearing Tony's name like that.
Close Rikers, goddammit.
Yes.
So... Billy calls the teacher's name. I keep forgetting her name.
Miss Wilkinson.
Miss Wilkins. He calls Miss Wilkinson, or he tries to, but Debbie picks up the phone.
That's right, that little bitch.
Yes. And yes, maybe Debbie's only 9 or 10 years old, and maybe she feels heartbroken because she offered to show Billy her fanny, and Billy said no the scene before.
And if you aren't familiar with the British definition of fanny, please go educate yourself on that.
Use your Googles. And...
Incognito browser.
Yes. Yeah,
not safe for work.
Who knows what'll pop up if you don't use incognito. And then Billy says no. So when he calls and he picks up and he goes, I don't think I'm going to be able to make the audition. I'm in trouble here. And Debbie doesn't say anything, and she just hangs up on him.
Yeah, because he can't. Yeah, he couldn't get to the audition space because he was waiting for his brother. Yeah. Oh, that was so heartbreaking. And you just are sitting there, you're so outraged that she would do that, and you sort of know what's going to happen and how frustrated you are for this kid because he's going to have to like explain himself to an angry adult when none of this was any of his fault.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what happens. And she kind of says, like, all right, well, there's another one in London, right? And then
and it's $2,000 to get there.
$2,000. And his dad, this is still before the scene where he, like, fight dances his dad, right? Like, his dad doesn't know yet, right?
Yeah, he doesn't know yet.
He's seen that Billy was doing ballet and sort of told him off.
And then she went to the house to be like, your son's talented.
Yes,
and Tony, and all of his toxic masculinity, rage, starts arguing with the lady. He's like, but you're not going to make my brother a poof.
Yeah.
You don't see how hard we're working? And then he makes Billy get on top of the table and is like, dance, Billy.
Yeah.
And Billy doesn't dance good, but then like he's arguing with the lady, but then all of a sudden it jumps to Billy angrily dancing in the yard, I think. But we don't know how much time passed by.
Right. That's one of those. This is like at its peak chaotic, where he is dancing around like outside, kind of Kevin Bacon style from the movie Footloose in the factory.
Yes.
But where does that scene fall where the dads are out? It's like Christmas or something.
Yeah, this happens. Sorry, go ahead.
Is that after this?
That's after that.
It's hard to keep track.
Yeah.
But there's this incredible scene where essentially after Miss Wilkinson has come and said, you really should let this, they basically shut it down.
Yeah.
And then the dads in the town are all stumbling around drunk on Christmas. And they walk into the gymnasium where Billy and Michael, his friend from like experimenting with makeup and stuff like that, he's like put a tutu on Michael and he's like teaching him first position, second position, whatever. And these drunk dads walk in and are just astounded, and poor Michael just like shimmies out of the tutu like oh my god, this is terrible. And there's no words exchanged. Billy just like walks up to his dad and maybe he does call him a name or something, but then Billy does this incredible solo dance just like full of anger and also kind of like fuck you, and also kind of like I'll show you what I can do, and she's right, I should go, like all communicated through the way he moves.
But the amazing thing about that, the dance was amazing, but what really blew me away is the father walks out and Billy goes after him and he goes, Dad, come back. Now if you watch the movie, they've only responded to Billy with curse words or shut the fuck up. The father's running. He goes, go home, son. That's the first time he's called him son. The whole movie. That's the first time he hasn't addressed Billy without cursing at him or threatening him the whole movie. And that's not that we both were like, oh, something's happening here.
Yeah, and I think that I need, like, having your perspective there as like a son of a father is so different than my, like, I think that father-son relationship is really only understandable if you've been through it. So I was grateful for your insight. Why do you think you grabbed that? Because you pointed it out to me that that's the first time you'd called him son. It's like you were kind of instinctively listening for it the whole time.
Yeah. You know what it was? Like, because, you know, that moment was full of so much tension when he saw Billy like that.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was going to kill him.
Me too.
And then when he didn't do that and he was walking away, I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, this doesn't make sense, because every other time he's responded with a lot of rage and violence towards Billy. And this time he walks away. So then I thought he was defeated, so I was really paying attention to see what would happen next. Mm-hmm. So when Billy called him, I thought the father was going to disown him. But then, like, when he said son, I'm like, that was, you know, I'm not really answering the question, I guess. But
no.
It was, when he said son, it was like such a complete, like, contrast from what I was expecting to hear from him. It was just such a complete contrast from how all the men have been acting the whole movie. And I have been watching the movie just looking at all the men and, like, seeing how, like, it was so hyper masculine and so hyper aggressive. Yeah. And Billy was the only one besides his friend who were the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I thought the father was more like the son.
Yeah. And you could see he was kind of fighting against his own instincts, which we'd been seeing him kind of like, and a lot of the men just kind of, they're so angry and they're scared because of this economic situation, and they're lashing out kind of blindly. This is a moment where he intentionally controls himself. Keep in mind too, he's drunk. Yeah. And it's hard to do that when you're drunk.
And he ran.
Yeah.
While he was drunk.
Just an amazing tour de force by this drunk dad, where he does not hit his son. And in fact, it's like, it's not exactly affectionate, but compared to what has come before, it's like the kindest thing. And he's a little bit like, I'm really restraining myself here. Please remove yourself from this situation, because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to maintain this, right? Like, did you get that?
I got that too, yeah.
It's and like, go home.
Runs to her house, and like, so I noticed this too. When Billy first ran to the teacher's house, there was a dog that scared him, so he kind of like dashes away.
Yeah.
And then his dad did the same thing, and that's when I was like, oh, the dad's on the side now. Like, I noticed like that small little thing.
That's very good. I did not pick that up.
See? Drunk. I had 2 glasses of wine.
Right, we did have some wine. But no psychotropics. We'll neither confirm nor deny that. Yeah. And so then, like, the dad makes a shocking decision in order to fund this trip to London.
He crosses the picket line. Yes.
And also, doesn't he pawn some jewelry?
That happens later.
Okay. So he crosses the picket line.
That was
shocking.
Yeah. I was like, at first, because like, you know, like the super left in me, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Don't cross the line. But like, I got
it.
Yeah. I was like, ugh. Like, I've been on like the picket line with like people who are striking and like have yelled and cursed at like scabs myself. It's lots of fun.
Yeah, it sounds delightful, and it certainly looked like everyone was having a great time in this movie. So Tony actually glimpses his dad crossing the picket line, and that is
over a dangerous fence,
a very murderous fence, the sharpest fence I've ever seen. He gets some assistance, very nimbly, does not kill himself on this fence, and they have an incredible moment at the bottom of this mine.
That was crazy, but that that was a moment for me where.
Well, let's say what happens. So that Tony's clearly going to like confront his dad, and like, what are you doing here? And I think the dad says
he's just
like,
a boy.
Like we need this money for da da da, and Tony's like, no, blah. And yeah, do you say what happens?
Oh, sorry. Like, he's like, we'll figure it out, and like they start crying,
which
is like that. These are not men who cry. They punch walls or women. That's the kind of energy I got from them.
There's no women in this movie, so
it's like 4.5.
But if there were women around, there may have been some punching.
Yeah, but like and like I don't mean to say that so cavalierly, but that was just the kind of energy that I got from those two guys.
Yeah,
and like you could tell like when he cried, they both of them cried. It wasn't just about Billy. It was everything. Just hit, and like they're crying. You can hear Tony. He's trying to figure out the answers, but he doesn't know either. And then the other men come, and he's like, he's not going there. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And then everybody rallies around Billy.
Yeah,
everybody,
the whole town. Yeah,
That was amazing.
Oh, it was so amazing. And there's some place in there where you just said kind of, we were just being quiet watching the movie and you just go, man, talk to your kids. Like,
yeah.
And I think it was I think that was the scene that triggered it, where it was like, God, like, you're both going through this scary, terrible thing, and like, talk to Tony, talk to Billy. Like, it's finally starting. Like, some of the walls are starting to come down, but yeah, like the whole community gets together. People are like bringing in, quarters and whatever. I mean, they're the British version, but like coins. People are really digging deep. Is this when the jewelry gets pawned? Because that was also very sad.
The wedding ring and the bracelet.
His dad pawns Billy's mom's stuff to get him to London, and then they get on a bus. And they go to London. And they have an audition, and I thought that there was a lot of humor. This is also the section where things calm down in terms of the jump cuts and the weird surrealism. But the dad, like, both of them, they come from this lower middle class, or maybe even lower class background. So they go to London to this like Royal Ballet School, and it is super elaborate, and everything is marble, like ceiling to floor. And the dad is clearly a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit like starstruck almost, and he's just like looking around. It's very funny.
And
it's very subtle. Billy's like, be cool, dad. So
and then when Billy was finally doing his audition, I wanted to give him a hug so bad. He just was so scared.
He was so scared. And so the audition consisted of, a couple of things. They like made him plie and hold it. And then they just kind of, there's like a free style section of the audition where they're like, we just want to see how you move to the music.
And he didn't like the music.
And it also, like, what a weird way to put it. If someone was like, I just want to see how you move to the music, I would be like, all right, Predator. Like, they don't even say dance. It's not like a routine that all the kids are performing.
Music,
no,
really?
I don't like that. I don't know what you mean. I would just do, Hitch, like, just, you live right here. That would have been me. Wouldn't know what to do.
But he put so much fucking drip on river dancing. I have always made fun of white people for river dancing. He fucking swagged that the fuck out.
I don't know about that. It's like as swaggy as Riverdance can get. It was definitely the swaggiest version of Riverdance.
I have a lot of love for Billy still, so like I will, like, maybe I'm amping it, but like,
no, I think
I've never seen swaggy river dancing, but he killed that shit.
And they really like gave us a scare there, because when the music starts, it's very folky. It's not classical music, and you can see the panel of judges is like, what is happening? What is this? And Billy freezes. Initially. And then he goes in, finally, he like finds his confidence and like goes into his dance. Now, did you think it was the same dance that he did in the gym to his dad?
I hadn't even thought about that.
Because remember, he ends with those 3 turns.
Oh, yeah.
And he did that too. And I wonder if it's the same dance. Like, I'd have to go back and be more educated about dance to really figure that out.
Which we are not.
But I think it was the same dance, which probably had some symbolic meaning, because this is a movie that's full of symbolism.
It probably was. That's like his defiant dance. Like, he was scared.
His defiant dance,
And then he punched that kid in the face.
So in the locker room, we meet our first black character.
Oh yeah,
which is
Leroy. They're gonna call him Leroy.
He had 20 seconds of screen time and no name or any lines.
An hour and 20 minutes in.
An hour and 21 minutes in.
Mm-hmm. And then
there are 2 black characters in this whole movie. Neither of them speak. The other one is Michael's boyfriend at the very end, which we'll get to.
And 42 minutes in.
The movie is an hour and 50 minutes long. Which, I do think some things are ameliorated by the fact that it is like northeastern England. In the 80s. I'm not sure there were a lot, but they did find there were 2 places where they were like, put a black kid in there.
Put this man Negro here.
So, well,
hopefully not.
Hopefully not. But so he, Billy thinks he didn't do well. Mm-hmm. He clocks his kid in the dressing room, and you're sort of like, oh no, like how are they going to react to that? And Billy kind of seems to get that same impression. He goes and sort of slouches with his dad in the hallway.
And then they call him in for an interview, and the interview was very strange because like I'm used to this, like the movie tropes where like you're hesitant at first, but then you find your voice, or maybe a nice judge encourages you, or the dad says something. None of that really happens. There was a moment when they asked the dad, "Are you 100% with them?" And his dad says yes, and you can see Billy like release a big breath, and I'm like, there it is. But then the next question, Billy's like, "I don't know." So I was like, oh, I guess that was nothing.
Yeah, he's kind of like still that little kid who hasn't really had that long of his life where people were encouraging him to be open about this. Like, it's still pretty new that he's allowed to talk about this stuff out loud. And it must be very strange to be sitting next to his dad in that room.
Yeah.
But there is kind of the arc that you're talking about, because one of the lady judges,
always women,
as they're walking out the door, right? Because the head judge was kind of like, "Oh, would you call yourself a fan of dance?"
Yeah.
And his dad is like, "Well, I'm no expert," which I definitely related to. But as they're walking out, and you're kind of like, "No, he blew it! Like, this was terrible." Someone asked, like, "What does it feel like when you dance?"
Before you continue, can I just say this is kind of sad. What? She had the second most lines for a woman after Billy's dead mom, who had maybe 12 lines.
Are we counting Grandma's lines as lines, though?
No.
Because she had like 4, but they were crazy.
Yes, exactly.
And they were almost always, "I could have been a professional dancer." After a certain point in the movie, that's all she said.
Yeah, and it barely lucid. And
barely.
It was like one time we thought she was dead, but it was just...
Yes. And Billy kind of did, too.
Yeah.
She's, I think, intended to be comic relief, but... I don't know if I got that.
Yeah.
It was just another chaos agent.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you never know when she was going to go on the run.
No, or die.
Or die.
Yeah.
She's very old.
Or die on the run, which I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
She was definitely a chaos agent.
But, like, the woman, of course, was like, here's a nuanced question that actually gives you space to answer it in a real way.
Yeah.
And Billy fucking answers it.
He does. And he really says... something very beautiful, almost because you're seeing him articulate it for clearly at the very first time.
Yeah.
It's not like a speech that flows out of him. He's kind of hesitant, and he's really trying to like figure out what does this feel like.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so like beautiful. And his dad hears it. Like, they're not quite out the door when this happens. And you get the sense that like that's the thing that shows the judges like, we've got a real dancer here.
Yeah. Yep. And was it the scene after or before where like Billy's dancing up the hill doing the pirouettes and his dad's like, "Do you need to do this?"
Yes. Yes. That's when they get back from London.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like walking back home. That ragamuffin girl is standing, staring, being a weirdo.
Yep.
And Billy is like doing pirouettes up this hill. Yep. People run up this hill over and over again throughout this movie. A lot of stamina. It's amazing. But his dad just sort of looks at him and he's like, "Do you have to do this right now?" or something like that. And it was really funny because it wasn't reacting to the dancing. It was reacting to like my kids being annoying.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like pointed at like, "That's not masculine" or whatever. It was just like, "Oh my God, can you not? Like, we've just been on a bus for however many hours."
Yeah, like, aren't you tired, you piece of shit?
Yeah.
There was something else that I want to mention over there that like I really liked. I can't remember it now. All right, so I guess we got to keep moving on then.
If it comes to you, we'll just Billy Elliot this and jump right back to it.
See, that's a good way to do things.
Yeah, and what happens next, plot-wise, is the letter.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
okay.
Before the letter, that's a transition where like all of a sudden now him and his dad become a team.
Yeah,
and, like, scenes are opening up with the two of them together. And I was like, oh. And they even have a moment. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but I was going to say this is the moment where I was like, "What? Mrs. Wilkinson is the founder of this feast," and that really just fades into the background, which is fine. Debbie's a bitch. Yeah. We've already covered this.
Fuck Debbie.
Yeah, fuck Debbie.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a team. Like, they're really, and like the whole community it's all sort of like cool. Like, everyone knows he went to go try out for ballet, so he doesn't really have to hide anymore. Tony's got some space to maybe like have some feelings.
Yeah.
It's like everyone is in a better place.
Yeah. And then, like, so that's happening, and now they're waiting for him to find out he's heard from the school, and they get the envelope, and then the whole family's sitting in the kitchen trying to be
waiting for him to come home. I don't think they were being super casual.
Yeah, no, they were not.
They were like, "We're not going to open it. Like, we know that would be a real betrayal, but you should really open this right now." So Billy goes in the other room, and what ensues is one of the most stressful 90 seconds in a very stressful movie filled with lots of beautifully orchestrated moments of tension. And this was one of them when he's reading that letter, and I could not read his face.
Yeah, that was brilliant, though.
It was so good.
That was brilliant, because like the director knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you motherfucker. But then, because the family's the way they are, they were like, fuck this kid, and like burst into the room.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, they give him like a minute, and then you can tell the dad's just like, I gotta know. And it, it was a very thin letter. It wasn't like a big package. And so from my college days, I remember like getting all of those rejection letters.
Yep.
And they were very thin packages, and the one acceptance that I got, or well, maybe there were two, but there were not a lot, came and it had like more stuff in it. So it was a thin letter, and I was like, oh man, would they really do this to us at the end? And he gets in. Yeah.
That was like, I was at first upset because remember that it jumps to the scene now, the dad sprinting up the fucking hill.
Right.
Looking so happy.
Yes.
He gets to the boxing ring / ballet center / bar, apparently.
Yeah.
And the whole time was behind Billy. So he's like, Billy got in. And they're like, fuck you. The union caved. And I'm like, what?
Right. It's like this will steal your joy anyway. Yeah.
That was wild.
That was wild.
And then what happened next? So they went back to work, and like they're all in the mine. They look super upset.
Yeah, they're in that elevator, and they're just all like 1,000-yard stare with their hard hats on, and you're like, oh my god. And to me, it just recalled that scene with the dad and Tony after the dad goes back to work to fund the trip to London, when he says like, he's only a boy, like give him a chance to get out of here. It was like so heartbreaking. And then you really see like, this is what you're escaping. But also then you've like grown so much to care about the dad and Tony, so you're like, this is a real bummer.
Yeah, they looked miserable. I felt shitty for them.
And why didn't they have face masks? Like,
it was the 80s.
I know, but do they now? This is something we can fact check, but it's like,
they should.
Just even one of those little medical white cotton things, it's not going to prevent you from getting black lung, but a gesture towards the idea would have been nice.
I feel like they've been down in their minds long enough where they're like, black lung is coming.
Yeah. I mean, I guess.
And then he finally talks to the teacher, and she's upset with him. Or she's upset with the situation because he's like, I got in. And she goes, yeah, Debbie told me. You mean your nosy daughter who told Billy that your dad is redundant and you can't fuck anymore and you sleep in separate bedrooms, and then offered to show him her fanny and then tried to sabotage his audition? You mean that, Debbie?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And there's also probably something a little bit in... I think this comes up a lot in movies where you have this kind of mentor relationship. And maybe Miss Wilkinson is a little bit jealous of Billy.
Yeah, maybe.
And she's maybe a little bit like, I did all this work, I'm getting no credit now.
Yeah.
And like, it should have been me, but I didn't have a me to, give me the push. Yeah. Maybe there's a little bit of that going on too.
She did a lot of the emotional labor. When Billy was like rebelling, she really carried that. She fought with the family, and it's kind of messed up because if we go to the end, his first big show, Dad is there, Tony is there, she's not.
That's right. Michael's there. Yeah. Michael's partner is there.
Michael's black boyfriend is there, who we've never met before.
Scene. Yeah, and by the way, Michael had like kind of a fabulous, like sort of turban-y.
He was a very beautiful man.
Everyone was very beautiful, but so yeah, then we see adult Billy like do this like beautiful leap during a performance of Swan Lake, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. And that's where you thought he was going to die of the gay.
I didn't know I didn't think it was related to that, but yeah, I should reveal now that the whole movie I was waiting for Billy Elliot to die, because I remembered that this movie was a like cautionary tale maybe about being gay. Yeah. But like when this movie came out, I was living in the suburbs of Houston, Texas, extremely evangelical. It was around the time when like movies were becoming a battleground for evangelicals. So like The Passion of the Christ had come out, and like people bought out theaters to go make that a huge movie. Yeah. And I remember this coming out and people telling me, like, that's not a movie you should see. It's about being gay. And I was like, oh, well. But it's totally not about that. At all. And there's, in fact, it's like a really modern interpretation of kind of like gender and sexuality. Like, it's kind of referenced, but nobody's like... There's not a love story here at all.
Like, Michael kind of hits on Billy a little bit, but Billy's like, that's not really my jam right now. I'm talking in college.
Right. Which is super healthy, and I would have loved to see it as a 12-year-old. So yeah, I turned to Stanley at the end of the movie and was like, I I thought this was going to be way sadder.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a triumphant movie.
Yeah, no one dies. I thought, like, first I thought the grandma was going to die. Then I thought Tony was definitely going to die when all those cops were chasing him and, like, looking to beat the shit out of him. I really thought that he was going to die.
Yeah.
And then he didn't die. So I'm like, okay, so Billy's going to die.
And we didn't talk about this ahead of the movie, by the way, that we both were sitting there just waiting for some crucial character to die. And, you know, in some ways I think that is something that's even better about this movie is, like, sorry to say this, but that's like an easy move. Like, that's an easy emotional move to, like, kill off one of the central pillars of, like, this family or this community. And to not go there, I think was, like, showed real restraint.
Yeah. I think so.
Because there's still a ton of emotionality about this movie, and like you felt their tragedy and their desperation in terms of their economic situation and the grief that was like bubbling under the surface. Like, remember at the Christmas thing where they're burning the piano? Sorry to Billy Elliot, we're gonna jump back, and they're all drinking eggnog. They're sitting around the burning piano fire, and the dad just starts weeping. And everyone's just like looks at their eggnog glass. So they built that through moments like that. They didn't have to kill anybody off. And you get the sense that like Billy was going to go on to have a beautiful ballet career. And I just really thought I had been led to believe that this was about how, you know, being like stepping outside of the lines of traditional gender roles will get you killed.
And instead it lifted you up. But I can see, I can see how this movie could be a cult classic, or it could be. No, actually, I still don't see how this movie could have been a blockbuster. Like, we were watching the movie, like, this had to be an indie movie first. Because nothing about it in the beginning made me understand why folks would pack the theaters to see this. After the fact, when like folks had heard about it, I could see that happening. But before, in the early 2000s, we were still not very, like, accepting of the people in the LGBTQIA community. No one knew what the hell queer was. You know, so... I don't get that, but it was, And
I will say, so like, I think this is also a big difference between like U.S. film processes and British stuff. So like, this was co-produced by BBC Films, and it was distributed by Universal Pictures. So like, that's major distribution. But I don't know if you'd count BBC as like an indie studio to make it. I think, but it did feel very indie. Like, it felt like a very, very particular point of view. It wasn't necessarily trying to be that appeal to that many people, but at the end of the day, I think it did, because it's such a pure heart of a movie. Do you want to guess the budget?
Yes.
Okay, guess the budget.
$25.
And then guess how much it made at the box office.
So the budget was $25, and they made like $10 million.
Come on.
All right, so the budget was like $2 million, and they made 50.
Okay. Is that your final answer? So one confounding factor is that the budget is in pounds and the box office is in dollars. But we're just going to go with it. I'll disclose that fact. The budget was $3 million. Very close on that. It made $109 million.
That's a lot.
So 3 million pounds, which is some number of dollars. I couldn't tell you.
And about $6 million.
In 2000?
No, actually, that's less, because in 2000s we still made more. So that's about.
I can't believe you're speaking this confidently about this.
Probably like it was like probably $1.5 million back then, because like the dollar was double the pound back then, I remember in like 2006 and 7, that's when the pound officially became higher than the dollar.
I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed that you know this.
Thank you. I'm a nerd, and I could be aggressively wrong, but I'm saying it confidently. And
you sure are. This you're saying as if it's not an opinion, one of our many closely held opinions, but in fact a fact.
But $100 million in 2000 year time, like in today's time, is probably like $200-300 million for like a movie. Like, no matter what era you put this in, this is a blowout success.
And it looks like for the UK box office, it earned $73 million on a $3 million budget.
That's amazing.
And then they adapted it for a musical that opened on the West End in 2005, Billy Elliot the Musical, which makes a ton of sense. I'm not a musicals fan, but some things just really should be musicals.
Like that movie.
Billy Elliot should be a musical.
And on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 85% approval rating.
Wow.
How it only has an 85%. I mean, I can see how it only has an 85%.
All right, can you see like what people don't like about it? What do they say?
I just checked on Wikipedia, so it doesn't actually say it, but I do know some of the awards that the movie got, if you want to hear that.
Yeah, definitely.
So awards and nominations, it won the Best British Independent Film. See, See, I knew it was an independent film.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That will be our, for sure, once and for all.
Yeah. Best director, Stephen Daldry. Best newcomer, Jamie Bell.
Yes. So deserved.
Julie Waters was nominated for Best Actress but didn't win. And the 2001 Academy Awards, Stephen Daldry was nominated for Best Director but he didn't win. They had nominations for Best Actress, Best Director, and Best Original Screenplay, but they didn't win any of those. They were just nominated. And in the British Academy Film Awards, they won the best award for Best British Film, the Best Leading Role, and the Best Supporting Role.
Is that a BAFTA, the British?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that sounds really cool. Like, if you know what a BAFTA is, you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, and Stephen Warbeck scored the music for the film, and the score was amazing. I will tell you, I loved it.
What stands out to you? Like, what do you remember about the score? I remember liking it, but I admit, like, in the cold light of day, I don't really remember that much about the music.
It was very 80s-ish, but like it wasn't necessarily. The music was good. I don't remember particular songs. I remember like the way the songs helped to dictate the emotion of the scene or what was happening. So when Billy was in the library stealing the ballet book and like that rock song was playing, and then when he went to go borrow it, the librarian was like, "You can't get that." The music stops.
Yeah.
But then the guy moons her, and the cops come, and then Billy's gonna steal it. The music comes back up. So things like that, I really like that.
So I'm here on Rotten Tomatoes to like see a couple of things that like people didn't like about it. So basically, and this is like, these are real, quote unquote, real reviewers. Yeah. Like the reviewer for the LA Times said that Hall and Daldry lay on the sentimentality and the cliches as thick as they can, which is pretty thick. And he says that gave him a sense that they don't trust the audience to have a reaction that's not been completely stage managed. Now that's so interesting because we came out of this feeling like the movie was total chaos.
Yeah.
Like we were constantly having to like find our feet and reorient ourselves to what it was doing. So I just don't agree with that at all.
At all. And the first 2 minutes of the movie, I was not sure. I'm like, I don't know if we're going to make it through this.
Yeah.
I think I alluded to that. I'm like, what's happening here?
Yeah. Oh, that'll be interesting to see if we actually like, quote unquote, walk out of any of these movies.
Oh, yeah.
That will be very interesting.
I feel like we got to give it at least like a one act like thing, like requirement.
Right, we have to watch a third of the movie, whatever the runtime is.
Yes.
Yeah, so it seems like what people didn't like about it is that it was really, really sweet, and I think that's just simply a matter of like
fuck you,
opinion. It's not like a taste thing, even. Yeah. It's just like if you don't like really feel good movies, you won't like Billy Elliot. But I think we got into there's a lot of stuff here that complicate that narrative. This is no Hallmark movie. Like there's a lot of really interesting filmmaking choices and the music, as you pointed out, that are brave. Like it is, I think it was brave to do all of that like chaotic cutting in the middle of the movie. And honestly, if it had been told straight through, I'm just not as sure I would have cared as much.
And unorthodox reactions to like cookie cutter triumphant moments, like for example, when the father ran up the hill and he told his friends Billy got in. After the 2 scenes before, they were rooting for Billy, and now they're too pissed about the unions to give a fuck about Billy.
Right.
And the mentor who had his back, but then and wrote a recommendation letter to the school, but then is pissed off at Billy and is like, "You're not gonna miss me."
Yeah.
Like that. Like I remember when that happened, I was like, "This is deeply unsatisfying."
Yeah.
And
that like you're my maternal figure, and it seems like you've overly bought into that too now.
Yeah,
because that's not healthy for any mom to do. Like when you're going off to college and your mom is making it about her.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Moms.
God damn it.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of restraint in this movie. It is really emotional and makes you feel really good at the end.
Yeah.
But the restraint with like. Not everybody is acting like very correctly most of the time
at all.
So I don't know. What should our rating scale be?
So I think if a movie is horrible, we give it a Debbie.
Okay. So from a Debbie to Pete Postlethwaite? Because Pete Postlethwaite just lifts your spirits as soon as you see him on the screen?
What the slob knocker you said it was? I want to.
Oh, a knobhead?
Knobhead, yeah, no, we can't do No.
A Debbie to a knobhead?
No, calm your blob. What was it to calm down?
Don't lose your blob.
Yeah, so a blob? No, that's going to be confusing.
I think this scale is going to change up throughout our episodes. Like we might do from a Debbie to a Pete Postlethwaite for a few, and we might come up with a better joke later on, and we'll just move the They'll know what we mean.
I like that. Yeah.
I give this a first time wearing a tutu from a Debbie to a Pete Postlethwaite. I don't know. I think like an 8, like a solid, almost perfect movie.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8, like 8.5.
I think it did everything it was attempting to do in an interesting way with good music and acting that was very well done.
Yeah.
Insofar as you just forgot you were watching actors, like I really bought these people as like working class dudes trying to like make their way in the world with a dead mom.
Yeah, and they felt all of the shit that they were going through.
And I felt it too.
Yeah, and Billy, holy shit, man, you're a great actor. I mean, his name is Jamie Hall, but
Jamie Hall.
Billy.
I'm so happy that he has this like beautiful life with Kate Mara.
Yeah, right. Like beautiful people. God damn it, Billy.
Maybe they're terrible people though. We don't know.
Maybe when they get into arguments, he just starts dancing aggressively to show her who the boss is.
She's like, that hasn't worked for a long time. You're not 12 anymore. And
he's like, shh. He's like dancing and pureeing, whatever you say.
Pureeing?
I don't know.
That's a different thing.
Yeah, he's like, what if he starts twerking? He's like, yeah, look at this. God damn it. I told you.
What if they, all it seems today like all Hollywood wants to do is reboot stuff that's already been made. What if they reboot Billy Elliot, but they do a diverse Billy Elliot? No. And it's like Cardi B's life story or something?
God, no. I have a very...
He's in the Bloods.
Yeah. Right? Like Chief Brim is his mentor.
Yeah, one of the big downfall moments of the movie is when Takeshi like snitches on Billy.
And
that's
like,
topical.
But the cops coming. No, like don't reboot this. This is great. Don't make a part 2.
No,
leave it
alone.
Yeah,
I like the musical adaptation of it. I think that makes a lot of sense. But if anyone goes back and tries to remake Billy Elliot, I'm gonna freak out.
Like when they remade Footloose and they tried to add a hip hop flavor to like the angry dance scene, and I was like, this sucks. And the music doesn't even fit his rage, so this is stupid.
It was all right. Okay, so verdict: almost perfect movie.
Yeah,
don't remake it.
No. We should ask that question every time.
Yes.
Should you
remake it? I like that.
There we go.
We're gonna figure this out as we go along. But this was really fun.
Yeah.
Do we have a sign off?
Yeah. Oh yeah. What is our sign off? So we've read all of our notes.
What if we just tell each other to fuck off?
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck off.
Fuck off.
Fuck off.
All right. Bye.
Bye.